Introduced just a couple years ago, the TRD Off-Road is the ultimate RAV4 trim. It has Falken Wild Peak trails, underbody protection, but most importantly, it has a Trick twin-clutch rear drive unit. So is this the RAV4 to get? We're going to test it on-road and off right now on Driving Sports TV. The fifth generation RAV4 has been a massive success for Toyota. Following the aggressive-looking redesign in 2019, the Japanese carmaker has moved more than 1.2 million units through dealers in North America, every year passing a new sales record. The RAV4 is so appealing because it packs in a lot of practicality along with a large array of available trims, each offering its own unique spin on the RAV4 formula. You even get your choice of standard or hybrid all-wheel drive powertrains. Today we're taking a second look at the 2022 RAV4 TRD Off-Road. Our test vehicle was provided with a few upgrades, including the weather and tech packages, in addition to a two-tone paint option. Price as you see it here, $40,460 US, including destination. This trim was introduced as a 2020 model and targets a more rugged and adventurous buyer. It even comes standard with Falken Wild Peak all-terrain tires wrapped around unique 18-inch TRD wheels. So let's talk about these tires because they are not what you think. Sure, they say Falken Wild Peak AT Trail right on the side, but these are not snow rated. If you buy these over the counter after the fact, they are snow rated. I happen to run the retail version of the Wild Peak Trail tire on my personal Subaru Crosstrek Sport. In addition to the snow rating, the retail Wild Peak Trail has deeper lugs and a longer warranty. In short, the Toyota version doesn't hold a candle to the real thing. If you do plan on any real adventures, you'll want to swap these tires out. Under the hood is a 2.5-liter four-cylinder producing 203 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. It's connected through an 8-speed automatic transmission where it powers all four wheels using Toyota's more advanced dynamic torque vectoring all-wheel drive system. That's because this one is able to vector power left and right to the rear axle, making it Toyota's most advanced system available on the RAV4. In the back, we get a power liftgate. And with all the seats folded flat, you're looking at up to 69 cubic feet of total capacity. Let's see if we can sleep in here. So 6'1", I do fit diagonally. It's not the most comfortable because the floor is not completely flat, but if you put down an air mattress, you're probably good. We also get a cargo net and remove that. If you are venturing down the trail, the chances of a flat are pretty high. So it's very important to have a full-size spare. That is not a full-size spare. That is a Maxxis spare tire. Not a Falken. It's not a Wild Peak. In the back, we get some nice power options, including an AC socket and a 12-volt. Now let's look on the inside. In the back, we get mud mats, dual USB-C sockets, our own vents, and a pull-down armrest with integrated cup holders. You can adjust the tilt of the seat back here, although it's a bit awkward. So that's standard, that's tilt. Okay. This is kind of nice, actually. The seats are really comfortable. I like this. Plenty of headroom. I'm 6'1", legs torso proportionate, and I'm good. Now let's check out what's up front. On the inside, we get all modern amenities that you would expect. We have a push-button start, dual-zone climate control, nice seating surfaces. This seat is super comfortable. It's deep, it's well padded. I have power adjustments. Front, back, do I got lumbar? Yep, I got lumbar. Steering wheel is also wrapped, although the leather I think could be nicer around the wheel, but you know, it's not too bad. Buttons are nicely integrated. Up here is a digital gauge cluster that looks identical to the one we just tested in the XLE Corolla Cross. Up here we can monitor economy, check out our music, and then also set up all of the advanced safety stuff that this is loaded with. We have lane tracing, pre-collision braking, blind spot monitoring, parking sonars, rear cross traffic alerts. It is everything that you would expect in a modern vehicle. Further, I get not just seat warmers, I get seat coolers. I have a wireless charging pad for my mobile device and a USB socket in addition to a 12 volt. What USB is up there? It's a USB-A, the old style. This interior, I think, actually looks pretty cool. My only complaint really is some of the materials look a little on the cheap side, but it looks durable. It looks like this will last a long time. The knobs are really easy to use. They actually feel pretty good to the touch, so they did focus on the touch points at least. Even the red highlights are tasteful. I especially like that this comes with mud mats. I always need mud mats. Big traction control off button here, but below that is the multi-terrain select system. I really like how when you turn the knob here, it actually changes the color. You can't really see it in daylight, but at night it's kind of a cool look. Normal is blue, mud sand is kind of a yellowish brownish, and then rock is white. Now this isn't exactly the same hardware that you would get, say, on a 4Runner. That multi-terrain select is way more comprehensive, but you do get some good options here. You can fine-tune the dynamic torque vectoring all-wheel drive system, and this is a special setup. Not only will it shift power from the front to the back, it'll actively shift power left and right to the back axle. That's because it actually has little clutches to send power back and forth. It's similar to what we see on the Bronco Sport Badlands Edition and above. It's a really cool setup. Does it actually make for a better off-roader though? We'll find that out a little bit later. But here you can customize the setup, go from eco, normal, and sport, or you can go to mud, sand, and rock, and that will either allow for more wheel spin or less wheel spin depending on your traction requirements. Of course, we also have snow to cut power, so you're not just spinning your wheels in ice and snow. And then also we have a hill descent control system. So we are fully loaded here for off-road fun. And I can't continue this review without touching on the infotainment. This is the older Toyota system. They're slowly moving to a new one that has appeared in the Tundra, but this one is pretty basic. For maps, I have to attach a cable because, yep, this is so old it does not support wireless CarPlay at all, which kind of makes the wireless charging pad kind of moot. Yeah, let's go ahead and plug it in. Once attached, CarPlay is available. Yes, always enable. And then unlock. Yay, there's CarPlay. And it looks the same as every other CarPlay. It looks identical to the setup on my 4Runner. It's very nice. The colors are fine. The display is fine. It's not exceptional by modern standards, but it definitely has a nice size. It's easy to use. And this is really the interface that you'll be using most of the time here. I think most buyers will, at least. The rear view camera is pretty low resolution, but at least it has tracking lines, which is nice. I think we're ready for some action. Let's take this onto the freeway as we head to the mountains. We're going to start the driving portion of this review like most great adventures start in North America, on a highway. And that gives us an opportunity to test out some of the more pedestrian features here, such as adaptive cruise control, which is standard across the RAV4 lineup. All I have to do is set a speed, and it will mirror the vehicle in front of me up to my target speed. It's a very useful system, and it works great. I have 3 stages of distance I can set. Further, this one has lane detection, which will tell me if I'm crossing a lane and give me a slight nudge back into the lane. I mean, the RAV4 is a really good travel partner, and this one in particular has very comfortable seats. I would say these are probably the best seats across the whole RAV4 lineup. And because this has an extra package, they are both heated and cooled. I also have automatic headlights, a wiper warmer, and a heated steering wheel. Those are all part of extra packages. And you're kind of picking up maybe a theme here, is that you have to add packages to really make it what you see here. That's how you kind of crawl up to the low 40s. You don't start there, but you get there. Now, I am a little confused because there are a number of options that I can see online that are listed as options for this vehicle, but I cannot find any individual packages that will allow them to be installed. Maybe it's a victim of the current chip shortages and they're like taking some things off and not updating other things. I have no idea. But the fact is that this one is not equipped with the surround view camera. It does not have a panorama sunroof, but both of those are options for the RAV4. And according to Toyota's grid online, there are also options for the TRD Off-Road trim. But I can't build that vehicle online at all. It is just not an option right now. So I just want to kind of point that out to anybody shopping for this vehicle. Make sure that the vehicle actually has installed what you want. Don't assume it does, because it may not. We're going to head out to an off-road area that I've used most recently in the Corolla Cross video because I want to see how this system compares to the Corolla Cross's next step down all-wheel drive system. That one uses brake vectoring as opposed to torque vectoring. And of course, torque vectoring is a better system. But how much better? Can it make that climb that we had to bring a Subaru Crosstrek in to complete? I think that's going to be fun to see. Even though this vehicle does not compete with the Crosstrek Sport that we use in our test has the same motor as a Forester. It also has the same all-wheel drive system. The only major difference being that the Forester has a slightly longer wheelbase, but that's not really going to help much on the course that we're doing today. This particular trim of RAV4 competes directly with the Subaru Forester Wilderness. Now, this vehicle has a lot of things better than the Wilderness. 8-speed transmission instead of a CVT, 203 horsepower, which is more than the Subaru. It has a torque vectoring rear end. Subaru does not, it just uses brake vectoring. But where the Subaru has an advantage is greater ride height, available underbody skid plates. Both of them have tranny coolers, which is good. The Subaru, however, comes with Geolandar tires, and the nice thing about the Geolandars is they are actually snow and ice rated. These ones are not. Even though these are Falken Wild Peaks, they, for some reason, formulated a version for this car that comes OEM that does not have the snow ice formulation. With a whopping 203 horsepower, nobody is going to claim that the RAV4 is fast. But still, we have to try a 0 to 60 to see just what it can do. Line it up, put it into sport mode, and 3, 2, 1, go. And 60 at 8.66 seconds, which really isn't too bad considering the class. I mean, there's a lot of really slow vehicles in this class. Forester! Excuse me, got something in my throat. On the road, the RAV4 TRD feels pretty good. You know, even though it has all-terrain tires, they really don't make a lot of noise. Sure, they're slightly louder than a standard all-season would be, but I don't think that's anything to complain about. And keep in mind, these are not proper Wild Peaks. They are the 01As, which is an OEM-specific tire designed for this vehicle. These tires not only have less tread depth, they also wear faster than the proper Wild Peak trails that you can buy from any tire dealer. So if you're considering a Wild Peak, do not get the 01As that come with this vehicle. You are shortchanging yourself if you go that direction. But here they do just fine. I don't think that they're a major selling point for the vehicle though. I mean, they might as well just be called all-season radials. The TRD Off-Road starts at just over $36,000. This one does have a lot of options, and I think they're very important ones. It's through the option packs that we get the mud mats, the heated and cooled seats, the heated steering wheel, and the larger display. That's all part of options that you have to add on. So you have to ask yourself, you know, at 36, 37, is it a good enough vehicle for the money, or do you need to add those option packs and now you're shopping at around 40, 42? There's a lot of options in that price range. So before we get into the tough stuff, let's talk about this all-wheel drive system. It is a torque vectoring setup. That means that in the back, it actually has a pair of electromechanical couplers to send power to the left or right rear wheel as necessary. That assists both in turning on pavement, sending more power to the outside wheel at lower speeds to help neutralize understeer, but it also should help in channeling the most amount of power to the wheel that needs it. So instead of, like say on the Subaru Forester, where it has a wheel spinning, it'll use a brake to stop that spinning, which in theory will let that power go back into the system. This one kind of ignores all that silliness, and it'll just not send power to that wheel in the first place, instead engaging the electromechanical coupler to the wheel that needs the grip. It is a better, more efficient system. But this one is missing a few off-road goodies. Yes, we have the multi-terrain select system, but we do not have an option to lock the two clutches in that rear to make it function like a locked differential. And I think that is a miss that they really should add on here. Are they leaving room for a possible TRD Pro version? Maybe, but all we can talk about is what is available right now, and right now you cannot lock those two twin clutches. But how well does it work in the real world? We're not at our normal private off-road area because it's covered in snow. We had a massive snowstorm. It covered up completely. We can't even get out there. So we're making do with things that are local and at lower elevation. Our private off-road area is at 2,000 feet. Where we'll be at today is at about 200 feet. So pretty significant difference. So this exact obstacle we recently did with the Toyota Corolla Cross as well as the Subaru Crosstrek Sport. You can see that the Corolla Cross really had problems getting enough power to that one wheel to lift it up the first obstacle. The Subaru system is more aggressive and it puts more power to that individual wheel, getting it up over the obstacle. Now here we are in the next level, which is a torque vectoring system. Now you can only get this in the Adventure and TRD Pro trims of the RAV4. All the other ones have the brake vectoring system. I think for my first attempt, I'm not going to turn on any special features. Even though this has the multi-terrain select system, I'm just going to drive up and see what it does first. See how those wheels respond. So I'm going to be removing grip completely off of the front left wheel and rear right wheel. And I can see actually wheel braking happening in the display here. It's telling me it's trying to brake that wheel and push forward. And it's working, but it is pretty slow and I'm having to go almost completely full throttle. Okay, now I don't want to tear this up too much, so I think we could see what it was doing there. So now I'm going to back up and let's enable MTS, and I'm going to do rock, which should be the most extreme version to minimize wheel spin, because on rock you don't want to be slipping tires and kicking rocks everywhere. You want to crawl up slowly. So let's see what this does here. So I still see the wheel braking over there. And now we should be using the torque vectoring to push power to the wheel that needs it. And it is so much smoother and so much more predictable. I am full throttle. It's still working, and it's having issues here. Let's try a second approach. I kind of thought it would do it. 203 horsepower, torque vectoring rear. It should be able to get through this. Come on, come on. Oh man, it looks like it just doesn't have enough. And up again, a little momentum. Oh, come on, the Subaru could do it. And the Subaru doesn't even have torque vectoring. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Charge. Oh, I just can't get over that rise. Wow, okay. I kind of thought it would do this. This was supposed to be, gee, look how this works, not, gee, watch it fail. Come on. Saw the wheel. Come on. Now this has an 8-speed automatic and it's not overheating or anything. It's definitely cutting power. So that's not working. Let's go ahead and go to mud sand. where it will allow wheel spin, which maybe that'll get us up. Of course, it'll tear the course up in the process too. So let's back down just a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna go, a little momentum. Come on, can you do it? Allow wheel spin, allow wheel spin. Don't shut it down, don't shut me down. Don't you shut me down, you're shutting me down. Okay, I think it's fair to say this cannot do that obstacle. That is disappointing. Let's go find something it can do so that we can at least see how the system is supposed to work. Since the more difficult challenge didn't quite work out, I think we're going to try something a little easier. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same process. I'm going to start this in normal mode so we can see how the system responds, and then up the ante as necessary. So the Corolla Cross was able to make this obstacle, so I will be shocked if this has any issues. Okay, so that made it just fine. Now let's see what it does with the other drive modes to see how it responds differently. So now I'm going to go into mud and sand. We should see more wheel spin here. Just going to crawl up because I want to stress the system. You can see MTS kicking power around. And then finally we have one more mode, which is rock, which should minimize slip. It's always more stressful for these systems to be on a tilt than it is on a level surface. And then rock really is going to reduce the amount of slip and still get me up and over. So in terms of off-road capability, this thing is pretty limited. Even though this torque vectoring system was disappointing off-road, on-road it actually improves the handling because it will push extra power to that outside rear wheel to improve turn-in. It's a really nice setup. Now it's not as aggressive as super handling all-wheel drive. It's not in that category, but it still does do something to make this RAV4 an even better handling vehicle. So I think the real question is would you get this or would you spend less and get the adventure? Well, I don't remember how good the seats are, and for me, I think that would be the last question. If the seats are as good in the Adventure, then I might save the money and get the Adventure instead of this TRD Off-Road. Although, anything that says TRD Off-Road maintains a higher value, so if resale is a concern at all, TRD Off-Road is where it's at. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share videos. We make them for you, and we hope you enjoy them.